the Wobble Podcast, episode 125. I'm your host, Sebastian J. Witt, and with me is my co-host, Yuki Lee Bender. Today, we're finally doing our How to Draft Super Slam episode. This isn't going to be drafted in any competitive format for this season, but, we will still talk about it a little bit. We're not going to go as deep as, our usual How to Draft episode where we go about each hero, but this is going to be an overarching episode that should cover a little bit of each of the heroes and enough for you to do pretty well in your local armories if you have drafts. But before we do that, did you do any Flesh and Blood this week, Yuki?
I did. I played 2 PQs on the weekend. It was our 2 local PQs. Played Verdance in both of them. I made semis in both of them, and then I did not make finals. So I lost to Ellie on Phi, and then Edison on Stack Florian. Not Stack Florian. Defensive Florian, let's say. It's definitely not Stack Florian, but defensive Florian is why I was thinking of Stack Florian. Ended up getting fatigued there. And then Lucas on Verdance took Edison out the next game. So, yeah.
Yeah, that game was very funny. I had Lucas give me a play-by-play of your and Edison's game through Discord. It's like 200 messages long, and it was like an hour-long messaging back and forth of like, oh, what's the life total? Do you know their pitch stack? And it was a pretty exciting game to get the play-by-play through Discord.
Yeah, it was a close one. I ended up getting Deny Redemption on my Rampant Growth turn, and I didn't have a way to... It was sort of weird because like I tucked my Rampants, but I also didn't know where his Deny Redemption was, so it was like a little bit of guesswork on both sides. And I think if I have like a Fruits in that hand instead of whatever card I have, I think it's a Light Up the Leaves that I have in my hand. If I have like something like a Fruits so that I can get a ping, basically like I pop 2 potions, he denies on the 3rd potion, and the problem is if I Rampant, my second, the last Rampant to resolve doesn't have anything to amp. Is kind of the problem. So I think if I'm on Aethertide, well, I guess I have a red in hand, so I can't Aethertide. But basically, if I have like a way to ping, like if I have like a Fruits in that spot, and I can like Fruits gain 2 Rampant, then I would amp like, I gain 8 life, I would amp 16, I'd have a ping for 17. It wouldn't kill Edison on the spot, but would put him low, and I have winning chances to win off of like Striders or something like this in the future. But I don't have that, so my turn kind of fizzles, and I get him kind of low, but I can't quite win the game.
There is a possibility that Edison actually just knows you don't have Fruits by tracking your Fruits, because that is one of the cards that he always talks about that you have to track on your opponent's pitch deck is Fruits, Scours, and Rampant Life Growths. So there's a good chance that he popped it on the 3rd potion because he knew you didn't have the Fruits.
That's fair. Yeah, he seemed a little bit unsure about the exact contents of my hand, but
yeah. He said he keeps on complaining about Fellings and Plow Unders is messing up his pitch deck.
Yeah, because you don't know what the cards are. So like both of my Rampants, like he didn't think I had double Rampant. I was off by a card is like the other problem in this game. I thought I was going to go E-Strike Felling into double Rampant. But I think my second Rampant was 1 card deeper, so I didn't actually draw that, which was a little unfortunate. Because I thought I had my pitch deck set up, and I think that hand did have a Fruit. I can't remember. It had something in it that was solid, but I was like off by a card.
Yeah. Man, Flesh and Blood a hard game, mostly when you play 3-4 cycles.
Yeah, in this case it's like 2 cycles, but the second cycle is super important, and the way that it lines up is super important. Yeah, so that was my weekend. Had fun playing PQs. That is my last PQ of the season. Headed to Tacoma next weekend for the Battle Hardened and the ProQuest Plus, both of which are CC. Are you going to that, Jay?
Yeah, I'll be there. I'll be playing. I was thinking about playing Florian. It was going to be Edison's exact list, but there's a chance that now Edison might go to the Battle Hardened, so now I might need to play something else.
I see. Yeah. I'm still between Verdance and Syndra. Both those decks are good. I have been leaning towards Verdance. Prism is a scary deck when you cut most of the poppers from your deck, which is kind of the position Verdance is in right now. So I need to figure out that matchup, and if it is acceptable, I kind of accepted the Gravy matchup. I felt like I got to like a good enough place that the rest of Verdance's matchup spread justified it, and now it's just like, maybe Prism is a deck that people are talking about, because so many decks have cut their poppers. Like a lot of Cinder decks, including the one I put on Patreon, doesn't have poppers. So when everybody cuts their poppers, and when KO turns out to be still winning PQs, but I think like overall not as strong as people thought. And I think at Worlds we're not going to see that much KO if I had to guess. Um, then Prism gets a lot better, and some people might take Prism, and that scares me a little bit. So I have to figure out if I want to put Poppers in Syndra or figure out something for the Verdance deck. The Verdance deck is like super super tight because like you have your trees. You don't want your trees in every matchup. Then you have your potions and your rampants, and that's like 7 cards right there. The potions and rampants with the trees, that's 10 cards, and that's just like almost all of your sideboard. So yeah, I'm not sure what to do there, but that's basically where I'm at in terms of worlds prep. Yeah, so I don't know. I'll play one of those decks at the Battle Hardened probably.
Reasonable, reasonable. I think I'm most likely gonna be on Arachne Huntsman if Edison does end up going to Tacoma. Yeah.
I know he was talking about maybe playing Verdance. He's just like,
Well, either way, he needs to use his Earth cards, so then I can't play Florian.
true, 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 true. Yeah, they do share a lot of cards.
Yeah, and I'm also not that willing to try and source my own Earth cards just to play this Florian list. That is a lot of work to play and a lot of work to source. So yeah, that Florian deck feels so good, yet it feels so bad.
Yeah, I feel like Florian's kind of fine right now. That's how I would put it.
Yeah, well, the deck I think Edison's Florian deck is just really good. The only problem is you never get to finish your games and you never get to win your games easily. So you always have to fight hard, and one misplay will cost you the match, or time will cost you the match. So every time you lose, it's your own fault. So that's what I like about that deck.
That's fair. That's fair. Okay, so we're gonna move on, I think, to the BNR as well as the as our main topic. But before we do that, I just want to quickly shout out our Patreon. So thank you to all of our patrons who get back to the show and help kind of support the show as well as all the content that's on Patreon. We couldn't be doing what we're doing without you, and we really appreciate you, and we appreciate all of our listeners as well. So if you're not able to give back, but you tune in, thank you for listening. If you want to check us out on Patreon, that's patreon.com/onthebobble. There's a Syndra guide and a KO guide for this current PQ season, and there's sort of like regular content that goes up there. So you can check that out there. And if you are buying singles, you can buy them from Invasion, a very good site for Canadians, especially one of the bigger retailers for singles in Canada. And on their singles, you can get 5% off using the code YLB5. So check that out if you're interested.
Okay, now we'll be talking about the BNR announcement that happened very recently, and this is for the LL format for Worlds. Originally, they announced it that they're going to have this BNR a little bit closer to the actual Worlds, right?
Yeah, I think it's supposed to be November 3rd, which is the Monday next week, right after the Battle Harden.
And instead, they actually moved this announcement up a little bit so the people prepping for Worlds can test a little bit more. I think the biggest reason of that is like there was a significantly less LLPQs than they hoped for, I think. And there's just like very little data on LL just overall than what LSS expected.
Yeah. And they had also made a ban like 2 weeks ago as well to LL. And so I think the idea is like if we're going to make a ban and then make another change to the format, we should probably give some people some notice. And I think that we'll get into my thoughts about the BNR later. But I think that if they were going to make changes, earlier is definitely better. I think I would have been quite upset if they waited until the 3rd. It's just like a little too late. And yeah.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, and the format just isn't solidified enough for anything to even be said or to be done to. Yeah, I
Yes.
think Chain was a little bit too powerful as from what it looked like. And I guess you want to just talk about it right away, the card that got banned?
Yeah. So 2 weeks ago, they unrestricted Deadwood Dirge. They have now re-restricted it. They said it should have never been unrestricted, and they cited that they wanted the Viserai Armory deck to be playable out of the box because it has multiple Deadwood Dirges in it. And then they said, and they were hoping that they could do that without too much weight on the format. They feel like it was too much, though, and that chain was way too good, which I've heard a few people have the sentiment of. And then they also banned Rosetta Thorn, basically just saying Runeblade in general is too strong.
Yeah, that's fair. Rosetta Thorn was already a messed up card in CC when they first printed it, and it was a problem card until it LL'd with Briar, and now it's a problem card in LL. Sure, fair. But I think the one problem with this is that it kind of hurts the non-problem Runeblades too, right?
Yeah, so I think the Deadwood Dirge ban, or restriction rather, is going to bring chain down a lot because most of the chain builds we were seeing that were doing well were the RuneGate chain decks. Well, it's really hard to RuneGate chain without the Deadwood Dirges. So you might be able to pivot to playing other rune chant makers, but they're going to be worse. So we'll see. Maybe people will find some adaptations. Chain is one of the most powerful heroes that they've ever printed in Flesh and Blood, just in terms of his text box, free action point, and free cards is just crazy. So it wouldn't surprise me if Chain can find a way to adapt, but certainly like the existing builds of Chain that we have gotten much, much worse. And the non-RuneGate Chain builds have to face down a potential 3 Warmongers, which is tough and kind of why people originally decided to go over to the Deadwood Dirge package and the RuneGate package.
Fair enough. What do you think? Like, someone like Briar got really hurt by this banning, right? Briar was like not even like a huge contender. Do you think Briar and maybe even Aurora have a chance of like being playable after this banning?
Yeah, it seems tough. They were already bad. You made them worse. They do have access to Duskblade. I think a lot of Runeblades will pivot to Duskblade. Maybe not Aurora because she doesn't have many non-attacks. But basically, if you play a non-attack and an attack, you get a +1 counter on your Duskblade. It swings for 3, which is already basically Reaping Blade. And then if you swing 2 turns in a row, it'll be 4. So it seems like mostly upside to be able to play the Duskblade over the Reaping Blade, since your very first swing is already the same. But that being said, I think it's probably a little worse than Rosetta Thorn. We saw basically all the Runeblades favor Rosetta Thorn over Duskblade, even though Duskblade's been legal in that format for quite some time. So yeah, definitely a step down, and I think it really does hurt those kind of tier 2 decks like Briar. I also think there's an argument that like I thought Viserai was probably the best deck in the format, and these bans kind of hurt Viserai the worst, or like the least. Like if he's stacking, he doesn't care about Rosetta Thorn ban. Losing 1 of 3 Deadwood Dirges is a definite nerf, but he has lots of rune chant makers if he wants them. Like he can play Galaxia package, for example, and he still has Skeleta. He still has most of his tools. He's still very, very powerful. But chain does get brought down. And I think that this is kind of like the crux of the problem for me, is that it's like, yes, the format isn't perfectly balanced, and there's like certain heroes you can play and certain heroes you can't play. And for a large part of the format, that is like Starvo and Runeblades. You did succeed in making Runeblade worse, but I don't know if you actually increased the diversity of the format. I feel like more Runeblade players are going to lean into Viserai because he probably got hurt the least. You probably see less chain, but the other heroes in the format I don't think are being gatekept by Runeblade. Your Dios, your Zens, those heroes struggle into Starvo, and Starvo didn't get touched by these bans. And I guess Dromai was hurt by Viserai, but arguably Viserai is still good, so it's like a little bit strange. Maybe without Rosetta Thorn and the Deadwood Dirges, that is a matchup that could maybe get swung a little bit, but I kind of feel like they're taking out some of the good decks, but they're not making the decks that couldn't compete able to compete. So it's sort of like, I don't actually know if it makes the format more healthy. I think it might just make it more narrow and just reset people's testing. But like right now, it just seems like Starvo's super good. You can probably still play Viserai, and then like maybe there's other decks. I think there was like actually some cool counter picks to Viserai, but if like you think that Viserai comes down in representation and Starvo shifts in representation a little bit, it's like those counter picks to Viserai, like your Zens, like your Dash IOs, are suddenly just like way less attractive. And I think we might actually have a more narrow metagame. It's like way too early to say. I haven't gotten to test this format, but that's like my initial impressions. I feel like personally, I would have liked them to just leave people's testing alone, let people try and solve the format, because I actually think there was like a few spicy decks that you could bring before. And now I'm just like, maybe you can bring them. I'm not really sure. I think you might have actually just pushed more decks out rather than increase format health. And I think just like letting the Pro Tour happen, see exactly which decks are too good, and then make some bans is kind of like what I was hoping for. And I kind of wish that they just left the format alone, honestly. I think that like, yeah, Runeblade probably a little too good. Yeah, you probably should make some changes afterwards. But like, if you don't really know what you're doing because you don't have enough data, I don't really see why we're like rushing to make bans kind of in the dark.
Yeah, that is true. That is true. I kind of felt that way for the emergency ban, like with the emergency unban with like Deadwood Dirge, because some other cards got hit on that list too, right? It wasn't just Deadwood Dirge in the last bannings.
Yeah, they like brought back Warmongers. I think they brought back like Hypo.
Yeah, but either way, like I felt like they didn't really have any data when they did that either, and I feel like this is like the same kind of response. Is like I don't even know where they're getting these like decisions from. It looks like they like looked at one battle card and was just like, okay, yeah, put click the button like reban Dirge, and I'm just like, oh, there was like one event and there was like one person who did well. It's like out of it's like a 50 player event or whatever it was.
Yeah, and I think like Chain won half the PQs, but also it was like 6 PQs or something, or 8 PQs. It was like a really small number of PQs, and it's like, okay, Chain won half of them, but like the sample size is so small. Yeah, I think kind of the takeaway is like, I think LL has been kind of mismanaged a little bit, which is too bad. And I think that we're really seeing that in people's enthusiasm for the format. The battle hardens have been firing with like really low attendance, which is kind of a shame. But it wasn't always this way, right? Like when LL was first announced and they first had callings for it, they weren't as attended as CC, which kind of makes sense, but they had people showing up. And I feel like the LL events have been getting smaller and smaller and smaller. I think it's a bit of a problem of like they rushed into it, but the events were really spaced out. So the format was kind of like never really curated well by bands and was just like super broken. Like we saw like all Starvo top eights for like quite a while. And then we saw like the Kraken's Ether Vein Verdant deck, and like the format was just like extremely degenerate, like way too far of an extreme. And I think a lot of people just got like a really bad impression of LL. And then that on top of like they let stores choose if they want LL or CC. So most stores choose CC. And then I think also the PQ changes so that if you win a PQ, you can't play more, further hurts that format. We talked about this early on that like it's hard to want to buy into an LL deck if you don't know if you get to play it, because you might not get to play more PQs after you win. And similarly, if the format you're really excited about is CC, why do you want to practice LL and play it and then maybe not get to play CC? So I think that the PQ changes probably also hurt this format. And I think just like all of this together has created the situation where people really don't like LL, and it has kind of like a lot of bad publicity.
That's a really good point, actually. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I'm also like from a person that's not like wanting like I don't really want to play LL mostly because like I'm not a great example because I'm not like I don't really like CC that much either way, and like LL doesn't really appeal to me either, which like I don't know how to say it properly, but it's like why play LL when I can just play CC, and it's like CC is basically like it doesn't feel like that much different anyways, if that makes sense. At least from like my perspective, I'm just like it's just extra work to try and put together an LL deck where it's already kind of a lot of work to put together a CC deck. So it's like trying to put together a deck for like one tournament is like so much work when it's already work to put together a CC deck.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I agree with that. I think like card acquisition and stuff like that is quite hard, especially for like people in our area. We don't have local stores that sell cards, so you have to order them online or trade for them. And a lot of these cards are old, so they're not necessarily easy to get, even if they are not that expensive in some cases.
You know, like a random card that's just hard to get is Starstruck. Starstruck's just randomly hard to find, and all of like the candle, like the dual, what are those called? Like the
Pulses.
pulses. Yeah, the pulses are just hard to find now. You know, like that set was 3 years ago, almost like 2.5 years ago, whatever it is. Like those cards, like people don't have them anymore. Or like if they did,
I
it's
think
like,
it's just like 4 years old because we drafted it and that's 2021.
oh my
It's the end
god,
of 2025.
that's so old. Yeah, 4 years ago. Like I have this random box of tails in on the side of my room that's never been opened. It might be in there, but like most people don't have that, right? So it's not like these cards are all accessible. Like the chain cards are not like draft chaffed anymore, right? Like it's in, people probably threw them out at this point, like the random commons that you might need from those like monarch and stuff.
Yeah, the game's also grown a ton since then, and I think I don't know what it is, but I think the vast majority of the player base did not play those sets. Like even thinking about like the people that showed up to our PQ, like maybe a third of them would have played at like Tails Monarch era. Maybe like it might even be less than that. It might be like a quarter of the people there. Like most of the people in the room have never played with those heroes. So I think that there's also kind of like for me, there's nostalgia on those heroes, and I'm like, oh, I gotta play Skelita. That's sweet. But I think for a lot of people, they're just like, I don't know. I started the game in high seas. Viserai wasn't even legal. Like, who cares?
It's true. And Viserai did not like it didn't LL a long time ago. It like LL'd kind of recently.
Yeah, I think most people have seen Viserai and like might be aware of Skelita, but still, you kind of get the idea of the sentiment, right? So yeah, I don't know. We'll see what happens with LL. I kind of feel like at this point, it's very hard for this format to do much. Yeah, that bad reputation. Like when players don't want to play the format, it's really, really, really hard to get them to. And I think that LL is kind of unfortunately in that spot right now. So I kind of feel like there might be a big push on Silver Age. It seems like Silver Age is going to be much more well managed, or like more focused launch with a set supporting it. They've pre-tested the format before announcing it, and I'm hoping that they pretty quickly like move it into organized play so that you have ways to play it. Um, and I think that Silver Age is like hopeful, and hopefully they can learn from some of the mistakes they've made in Noah.
I'm actually okay if either or both of them flopping, honestly. Yeah, there's more draft that way.
Yeah, it's true. So yeah, we'll have to see what happens. But I do think Silver Age is nice for like new players. We talked about that a whole bunch last week. So if you want our full thoughts on Silver Age and you haven't listened to last week's episode, I would do that. But yeah, just kind of thought of it because it's like managing a new format.
Yeah, makes sense. Okay, then let's move into the draft. So how to draft Super Slime? It's we're gonna be talking about each hero pretty briefly. We're gonna talk about each hero's like high picks or like cards that they definitely want, and then a pretty rough gameplay of like what you want to do to try and win games with that hero. So I think you should think about both the which cards are good in that hero, and then you want to fill out the rest of the cards that we didn't talk about with cards that would supplement the gameplay. And unfortunately, we're not going to be doing like each hero specific episodes for the set because you know no one's gonna no one's gonna need to know that deep into this format. And how many times have you drafted Super Slam, Yuki?
Honestly, not that much. I think I've drafted it like 3 or 4 times.
Yeah, like I'm also like pretty close to that. Maybe a little bit more. Like I did it like 5 times or so. But like
Mhm.
it's not like we have like 40 drafts in this format like we would usually do when we're doing some of these episodes, right?
Yeah, there just wasn't that much enthusiasm to boot camp it when people don't really have a reason to draft it outside of Armory. And similarly, like Runaways queue. I don't know, maybe they're a thing. I haven't wanted the Runaways queue. I think I remember someone saying they tried queuing up because they wanted to draft it, and it took them like hours to get a queue, which kind of makes sense to me. I don't think many people are playing Runaways queues. So yeah, Super Slam drafts kind of hard to come by, but hopefully this will give you a good impression of how to draft the format.
So I guess the first hero to start will be Tough Nut. This is my favorite hero in Limited from the set. The gameplay is so mundane, but it feels so flesh and bloody of like you get to play every single card of your deck.
That's fair. I drafted Tough Nut once and I kind of raged. I was not, or maybe I played it. I think I played it sealed at a pre-release, and then I was just like, I'm building something else. I don't want to play this hero. I can see the appeal of it. You do kind of like, it's very like deck value oriented.
Yeah, this is the one hero I think to start to say I would be very willing to IP myself when you're playing with Tough Nut or against Tough Nut. And that kind of gameplay is not it's not for everyone, let's say, but definitely you do want to pick your spots where you want to like IP penalty yourself to conserve your deck damage. And that is the kind of deck Tough Nut wants to be. I guess do you want to talk about the picks first?
Yeah, sure, we can do that. Some of these high picks. The first one is Comeback Kid. This is the reviled Raging Onslaught, so 3 for 7, block 3. And if you have less life than your opponent when you attack with it, you get cheered. And it gets +1, right?
And if you're being cheered this turn, this gets +1. So you actually don't need to have lower life than your opponent for this to get the +1 in Tough Nut. Because Tough Nut's hero text is, as an instant, you can tap it and you can pitch the top card of your deck. And if that card has 6 or more power, the crowd cheers you. So if you do pitch like a 6 power off the top, and most likely not blue, it's going to be yellow. If you pitch a yellow, pitch another card to play Comeback Kid, you are going to be coming in for 8, even if you are ahead on life totals.
Yep. Yeah, card's really good. Has great vanilla stats. 2-card 8 is fantastic. And if you get cheered, which presumably you do if you're attacking for 8 with this card, you also get the toughness. So it's kind of like a 2-card 9, which is just super above rate. And then do you like the yellows and the blues of this card as well?
Well, the yellow's just a 6 power yellow, so yes. And the blue's kind of okay. I would rather the red and the yellow. I think in general, Tough Nut doesn't want blues, is kind of where I'm at. Like you can play like a 3 blue Tough Nut deck. I'll be pretty happy with like a 3 blue Tough Nut deck.
Yeah. You don't want many blues, but it does block for 3. It is a decent stat line, so if this is one of your blues, it's probably one of the better options.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree with that. And I think the next card is the Smash Ups. So the Smash Ups, the Revered and the Brute has the Smash Ups. The Revered one is called Tough Smash Up, which when this card defends, you clash, and the winner will make a toughness token. And the Brute one is when you block, you clash, and you make a Vigor token for the winner. What's really important about this is that, yes, you're going to be most likely winning your clashes because every single card in your deck should be like a 7 or a 6. But more than that, these clash cards have the extra line of text of you may put the revealed card on the bottom of the owner's deck. So then that means if you look at the top card of your deck and if it's a red and you haven't used Toughness ability yet, you don't want to pitch reds. So you can bottom deck your red and try using the Tough Nut to get a yellow. Otherwise, if you see like a yellow or a blue on top, you can just keep it on top so then you now guaranteed to know what you're pitching off the top of your deck, which is like really big for just having information to plan your turn after your blocks.
Yeah, it is a little tricky because most of the heroes in the set don't have attacks with go again, but still, the being able to bottom a card gives you like 2 looks instead of just the one that is on top of your deck. So yeah, there's a lot of extra consistency in the deck, and I've noticed that the decks that have lots of these tend to do really well, both because of the extra value, but also the extra consistency.
Mm-hmm, yeah, like imagine just like a 3 block that gets you an extra point of value for just from blocking, and it gives you like an extra point of pitch value. That's like a 0 for 5. That's crazy.
No, it's definitely super, super strong. Okay, next card on the list is Buckwild. At red, this is a 3 for 7 that blocks for 2. But if you have a 6 power in your pitch zone, which Tough Nut has a lot of 6s, Buckwild gets go again. So 3 for 7 go again. think we understand why that's good. 3 cost can be awkward, right? Like you don't. There's not really three. There's not really blue sixes. There technically is like a super rare for Tough Nut, but like you don't really have blue sixes. So how are you playing with Buckwild?
We talk about this in the gameplay portion as well, but the best way to beat Tough Nut is actually to not attack them when Tough Nut has 3 toughness tokens or more, right? Because like attacking into 3 toughness with a 7 power, because most of your cards don't have go again, is like you're giving them a 1 card 6. So a lot of times the best play against like a 3 toughness turn is to pass. So Tough Nut just gets to have a 3-card hand, and then if you have Buckwild, that 3-card hand is actually going to convert pretty well. Um, because you can just go like pitch a yellow, Buckwild, activate, Tough Nut, pitch off the top, and then attack with your last card in your hand, which is another 2 costs for 6 or 3 costs for 6. And you can just have a 13 damage turn on offense, which Tough Nut usually doesn't get to do. Buckwild is kind of like your safety valve in case your opponent doesn't attack you, and that is how you punish them when they don't attack you. Because if you don't have cards like Buckwild, like if your opponent decides to not attack you, even with an arsenal, you look at your 3-card hand and be like, my best play is to attack you for 7. And that's just not good enough in this game.
Yeah, I agree. I have also been impressed by Buckwild sitting on the other side of the table, and I feel like you typically play this like once a game.
Yeah, or it depends on how often your opponent IPs themselves, or like
Yeah, true.
it also depends on how often you can make 3 or 4 toughness tokens. The more times you can make multiple toughness tokens, like so many that your opponent doesn't want to attack you anymore, the better Buckwild gets.
Yep, that all makes sense to me.
The next card on this list is Punching Gloves. This is kind of exactly the same reason why Buckwild is good. You kind of need this to make sure your hand converts on turns your opponent doesn't attack you. And when it's just on your equipment, it is pretty good. I guess we should explain Punching Gloves. Punching Gloves is an equipment. It is a arm piece, and it reads pay 2. Your next attack action gets +2 power. Go again.
Yep. So it just helps you convert on offense. I think a lot of these, like, there's like a few of these like resource sig type equipments, and they're pretty good in the format because you're starved for action points. So just getting to convert if your opponent folds is really nice, and especially in Tough Nut.
Mm-hmm.
So next one is 2 cost 7 powers at red, which kind of combines with our following bullet yellow 6s. So you want yellow 6s because when you activate Tough Nut, you get 2 resources, which lets you actually play most of the cards in your card pool, or like more of the cards in your card pool, and also gives you the toughness token. So you're kind of like bread and butter is you want a lot of yellow 6s, ideally with block 3, or like Buckwild that can help you convert. And then when you're playing lots of yellow 6s, having the 2 cost 7 powers are really, really premium. And honestly, even the 2 cost 6 powers are decent as well, right?
Yeah, they are. But I feel like the 2 cost 6 powers don't really exist in this format. Most of them's gonna be a 3 cost 6 power or 3 cost 7 power at red, like the 3 for 7s. I think most of the 2 costs don't actually come in yellow. I think they're like 2 costs for 6. Things like Bash Guardian, Familiar Stench only come in red.
Yeah, there are like a few, but a lot of them are like super rares or kind of weird cards. There's like Fight Fair, and there's a few of them, but yeah.
So yeah, the ones with the downsides typically given the piece of your mind and who's the tough guy. They do have a downside when they get blocked out, but honestly, it's kind of whatever. You just want to do damage so your opponent blocks you is kind of where you are with Tough Nut. Yeah, and I think just like gameplay wise, you will most likely play out your whole deck because if your opponent's cards block for 3, they will just block, and it's not hard to block out Tough Nut. And all you're trying to do is to make enough toughness tokens that your cards are blocking for 4 or for 5 every turn. So the gameplay is kind of really slow and grindy, but I love it. So if you're a Guardian player at heart, you'll probably love Tough Nut.
Yeah, it's very like deck damage oriented, where the toughness gives you extra value per card on blocks, and then basically all your cards are like 6 powers or more. So you're also trading up on cards when you attack, and you kind of just want to grind your opponent out of cards because, as Jay said, really hard to actually kill them if they just choose to block. But if they keep blocking 3 cards in front of your attacks, you're kind of winning. So yeah, that's the downside on these cards. Doesn't really matter.
We kind of talked about all of the gameplay while we were talking about the cards here, but we'll read the bullet points real quick. For Tough Nut, you just want to block well with toughness tokens and swing 2 card 7s. You want to be able to convert your 3 or 4 card hands with go again attacks, so that's like Buck Wild and Punching Gloves. And then the third point here is always make toughness tokens after using your hero ability. So just like make sure your cards are yellow 6s, 7 powers, and don't play too many blues that don't make a toughness when you pitch it off the top. And so your blues should be premiums. Maybe some examples might be like Brother in Arms, which is basically a 4 block. Things like Dig In Blue is pretty good because then on block you can actually convert your resources. But things like that, like your blues should be really like utility more than the blue pitch.
And Diggin's probably a card worth talking about. One of the nice things about Diggin is because when you block with it, you can pay resources to make toughness tokens up to 3, depending how much you pitch into it. What this can let you do is sometimes use a yellow or a blue in your hand on your turn and use the the tough net activation on their turn when they're attacking you to pay into Diggin. And then that's another way to lower that variance, where if you flip a red, sure, you only get the 1 toughness token from playing into Diggin, but you also get 1 from the tough net ability, and then you get to play your turn kind of guaranteed because you know the card that you're pitching. So Diggin, maybe not quite on this list, but is definitely another good tough net card that I think is worth mentioning.
Yeah, and it's kind of the same vein of Brothers in Arms. You can activate Tough Nut on your opponent's turn and pay for the resource to get the +2. So it's like a good way to lower your variance and guarantee a bunch of toughness tokens.
Yeah. So you get to do like yellow plus a 2 cost and then pay into tough net.
And if you have Toby Jugs, block for so much.
Yeah. Topi Jug's also good. Good way to use tough nut on your opponent's turn when you want to guarantee your attack on your turn.
So that was basically Tough Nut. You want to talk about Pleiades?
Yep. So Pleiades is the revered guardian. Once again, high pick, comeback kid. Basically, all the same things apply. 3 for 8. You don't get a 3 for 9 with this, but you do get a confidence token. And the confidence tokens are super, super good in Pleiades because they allow you to close out the games with the next category of card, which is all of the red suspense auras. So this is your active glories, your edge of their seats, and their attention in the air. So this is the 4 cost, 3 cost, and 2 cost auras of suspense that give you plus damage. I think basically it's like a bit reductive, but to some degree your Pleiades deck is as good, is like the quality of your deck is how many red auras you have. Obviously you like still need blues, you still need attacks, you need other cards, but typically like more red auras, your deck is better, is like a pretty clear 1-to-1.
Yeah, well, I think it might be like the more red auras you have and how easily you can make a confidence with it is kind of like your second point of barrier to make this deck good.
Yeah. You want stuff to make really big attacks and then confidence so that they can't block your really, really big attacks. So Comeback Kid is a confidence card, and then you have these red suspense auras. You can play other colors too, but red is by far the best. And the blues are also decent just for helping you convert all blue hands if you get the space.
Yeah, it's like because they block for 3, unlike the old auras, like you can just play all of them and just like be okay with it because they used to block for 2, now they block for 3. Hooray, finally.
Yeah. It's sort of just like blue block 3s that can convert in a pinch, which is pretty good. Okay, in the vein of these confidence makers, we also have Helm of the Adored. This is the revered helmet, Blade Break 1, and when you block with it, the crowd cheers you.
This card's so good. It's like you have like a bunch of auras on board and you're like, oh man, I couldn't make a confidence token. Oh, never mind. I can make a confidence token and like immediately attack you with confidence. That's just like on-demand confidence is crazy. Like having this card and not having this card kind of just like is like night and day on how strong your Pleiades deck is.
Yeah. Also, playing against Pleiades, if they have a whole bunch of Auras of Suspense and you see they have Helm of Adord, you probably don't want to attack them. It feels bad, but just letting them get a confidence token can often just kill you. So sometimes you may not want to attack them. And there are other cards. We don't necessarily have them on the high picks list, but they're kind of like role players in Pleiades that when they defend, you can make a confidence. There's a few different ones, and those are things to keep in mind as well. That if you attack Pleiades, even if she doesn't have Helm of the Adored, she can sometimes make a confidence token on defense.
Mm-hmm. But what this also means, though, is that if you have a Helm and their best place to not attack you, you just get to convert your 4-card hand. It's just like that's the other really strong part about Pleiades is like when your opponent's best counter place to not attack you and leave you with a 4-card hand when 4 auras is popping, you're probably still winning that game.
Yeah. If you hit them with a giant attack and then you get to play another aura or something, so long as you're not getting fatigued, you're pretty happy.
The next cards on this list is Story Beats and Shoot Your Mouth Off. So these are just the 3/4/8s. One of it's rare, but the biggest part about this card I just want to talk about would be that this is a Guardian card, but Lyath can't play these cards. So these are kind of like a high picks that you can also just wheel as long as Pleiades is open. And this might be another card to talk about because if these cards are getting cut and you don't see any Shoot Your Mouths Off or Story Beats, somebody else is probably drafting Pleiades.
Mm-hmm. Really good point. Yeah, there's kind of lots of good attacks that you can play, but you do kind of get these for free, and they're some of the kind of more premium ones for sure.
Imagine a 3/4/8, like in other formats, it's like actually just super premium. But in this format, the only person that really wants it is Pleiades, which is crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the other card that I'll talk about here is Full of Bravado. This is a rare. At red, it's a 3/7 that blocks 2, and when it attacks or defends, if you control an Aura of Suspense, you create a confidence token. This can work. So we talked about how good confidence is. This can work in the block, make a confidence way. Super good. You can also like set up some auras, play a Full of Bravado, attack them, you make a confidence token, and then you have confidence going into your next turn. So yeah, Full of Bravado, very good.
Mm-hmm. So those are basically all of your high picks. Obviously there are other cards that Pleiades might want. As we said, you want to be able to make confidence, and anything that pumps attacks are pretty good in this deck. But you want to quickly talk about Pleiades gameplay?
Yeah, so basically your goal is to make a giant attack with a confidence token behind it. You're making like 1 to 3 of these per game, and that will kill your opponent. Sometimes this looks like I've had a giant confidence attack for like 26 and my opponent actually just dies. But also sometimes this might be like I hit you for 18, I hit you for 12, and they both have confidence, and like you're going to leak way too much damage from the two of them. As you're building up to this, you're going to play your auras. You might do some blocking. You can also send some 3/7s in the meantime, just kind of like your classic Guardian gameplay. And you want to go first with this deck. You get a lot of value from going first by playing auras. Also, if you're playing against Pleiades and you go first, keep in mind that her auras are instants. So if you like filter your whole hand or play something that's not that strong, she might get to play a free aura.
If you do attack them with like a pretty big attack, or you can just pass and wait until they try and play an aura and then punish them by attacking them for a lot.
Yes, that is another play pattern that's worth mentioning. I think it was an RKO turn where I just passed, and then my opponent played an aura, pitch a card, play an aura, and I got to go Sadistic Scowl, intimidate you, and then the 3/0 that intimidates, I'm just like 8, intimidate both your cards, and they just took 8 damage turn 0, and I still got an arsenal.
That's not fair.
Yeah, so there's definitely some like things to be aware of on both sides of the board with Pleiades being able to play instants turn 0. It can be like very good for you and very bad for you. You have to be careful.
Yeah, it is kind of hard to convert cards in this format. So like most of the time you don't get punish that hard, but yeah, I guess against the reviled heroes, they can intimidate plus pump. So
Yeah, I think it's mostly a reviled hero thing. If you do against Toughnut, I guess they could have a Buck Wild turn, but you're probably pretty safe.
yeah, it's pretty hard though. Like Buckwild's really strong when they have like a 3 card hand and a arsenal, but without the arsenal, it's pretty tough to have a Buckwild turn and another attack after that as well. So should be fine.
Yeah, you should mostly be okay. Even if you leak a couple points of damage, if you're getting like 5 damage on board, it's okay. Even in that exchange, right? Like my opponent has a red edge of their seats, which is a +5. They lost 8 life. Like it's not great for them, but they're only actually down like 3 points overall in the exchange. So it's like,
Yeah, it's fair. It's fair. Okay, let's move on to Lyath. This is the reviled guardian. So this is the 5-hander in the format, but he does have a downside. He says all of his cards that you control are halved in power and block value. This hero text means that you need to be careful on what cards you are playing in your deck. Anything that blocks for 2 now blocks for 1. Anything that blocks for 3 now blocks for 2. And any attack that has like base power that's like higher than like 3 is kind of bad, right? Because then, like the 3/4/8s only attack for 4, and that's just like not where you want to be. Like a 2-card 4 is just like really bad.
yeah, you mostly want the 0 cost attacks. I think the only costed attack you want is power play, because that one gets plus power when you play it from your arsenal, and that one does work quite well in Lyath. But other than that, you just want to play 0 cost attacks. Keep in mind too that when his hero ability gives you +1 on defense, it only applies to action cards. There are a lot of block cards in this set. They do not get pumped by this ability. And there's also a lot of auras in the Guardian card pool, these instant auras. They're not actions, so they do not get pumped. I've seen quite a few players get confused by this, actually.
It is kind of like hidden in his hero text, where it's just like defending action cards, and then you're like, oh yeah, I want all of these like red pumping auras, and be like, oh, these card gets pumped too. No, like they're actual 2 blocks in this deck.
Yeah. So let's go into the high picks. I'll say that I think this is a hero that at least I'm the least confident in. I've seen Lyath do some powerful things. I don't think I've actually seen a Lyath deck do super well, though. I think he feels like a bit of an Acilio to me, where he's like trying to do unfair things, but your card pool is pretty contested. You need like very specific cards, and you kind of need your cards to line up right. And I think his downside is like pretty real, and he kind of like struggles to block overall, even though he has this hero ability. Do you kind of agree with that?
Yeah, I just like I'm really sad that the action, like the reviled actions, like a good chunk of them block for 2. So like even if you activate Lyath's ability, they still only block for 2. And then all of the auras also only block for 2. So like it feels like his hand only blocks for 10, even though not even 10. Like his hand only blocks for 8 because you have to pitch a card to activate his ability. So like he just doesn't block.
Yeah, agree with all of this. I also think a lot of the small attacks you want, like some of it is like feisty locals is like a decent attack to put some pumps on. Well, feisty locals blocks for 2. So yeah, he really struggles to block. He can die pretty quickly, and I think he's trying to basically do something unfair. So similar recipe to Pleiades, I think you actually want confidence plus big attack. But confidence is hard to come by when you're a reviled guardian. So I think the most important card, and this is a super rare, is 2 steps ahead. I've had somebody play this against me and actually almost kill me off the back of it, and then proceed to stumble and not quite get there. But 2 steps ahead is a 0 cost blue reviled guardian action aura that blocks for 3. So blue 3 block, great. And at the start of your turn, destroy this, then create a confidence and 3 might tokens. Notably, this does take 2 turns because you play it, the next turn it triggers, and then the next turn you get the confidence and might token. So this is on the same timer as the auras of suspense, and combines really nicely with them, because not only does it give you the +3, but it also gives you that confidence token that's so hard to get.
Yeah, that's a good way of thinking about it. It is basically like suspense too, isn't it?
Yeah, it doesn't say suspense, but it is basically suspense.
Okay. Yeah, this card is insane. It actually converts so well no matter how you use it.
Yeah. And then confidence is important. So I think that Stand Strong is probably pretty good in this deck. These are the Guardian Boots, Blade Break 1, which is already nice. And then it has an action, pay 3, destroy this, create a confidence token, activate this only if you control an Aura of Suspense. So you would do this when your Aura of Suspense is on 1. To create a confidence token. And I should have said this, but the action has go again as well. So you can do something else after the Stand Strong.
Sure, you don't have to.
You don't have to, but you can.
Yeah, I think like making sure your life total is healthy, and then unlike Pleiades, where a lot of your cards like you don't want to attack Pleiades when their auras are gonna pop, you do want to attack Lyath when their auras are about to pop.
Yeah, good point. So you have the confidence side. You then have the pump side. So once again, these are your red suspense auras, which are contested by Pleiades, your attention in the air, active glory, edge of their seats. Notably, I don't think the blue suspense auras are that good. Like they're pretty good in Pleiades because you get to keep putting counters on them. The like static like +1 or cost reduction are pretty reasonable in Pleiades. They're not very good in Lyath, but you do want the red pump auras. Those ones are quite good and are one of the better ways that you can make use of your 5-card hand. A 2-card 5 when you're a 5-hander is just pretty good.
Yeah, very good.
And in this vein, the reviled pumps are also really solid in Lyath. Doesn't really matter. You can't really choose to be picky with these because like they're also just really high picks and contested by RKO. And you kind of just need to pick them when you see them. And I think that this is maybe the problem that Lyath runs into is that you really need these things to buff power to be able to do anything in this format because you don't have Go Again. And all of the buff powers are also premium picks in the other heroes that can play those cards. So you kind of need like a huge density of this type of card that everybody wants.
Yeah, that is I think the worst part about Lyath is he wants other cards that both KO and Pleiades like is their high picks. So you end up with these like Lyath decks that are like filled with like cards that aren't Lyath's high picks essentially. And he is the worst at using these like mediocre cards, right? Like he's the worst at playing 2 blocks. He's the worst at playing yellows. He's like not great at attacking with like a generic 2 for 6. Like Brothers in Arms is like you don't want to attack with it. You might want to block with it, but you just can't attack with this card. He's like very limited in what he can do with the generics and even like the other Guardian cards, the other reviled cards. So he's very like his card pool's tight, and he doesn't have cards that he's the only one that he wants it.
Yeah, and it's tough that like most of the other heroes have this floor of like you play a 2-card 6 and it's like not good but it's fine, or like you have some bad cards you can just block 3 with them. But like Lyath, you can't even block 3 with them unless you activate his hero ability. Like you just sort of all of your bad cards just feel, even though you're a 5-hander, I think your bad cards feel more punishing than in other heroes because you can't just like block them away and get some decent value. Even if it's like a 2 block, like some heroes you're like, okay, I have this bad 2 block, I'm gonna block 2, and Lyath is a block 1. It's just like so punishing.
Let's move on with his high picks. We just talked about the Revel pumps, but then these cards are actually really, really good. It's Short Shrift, Wrecking Ball, the Tower cards. All of these cards are like yellow 3 power bases. Guardian attacks, and if it says if its power is higher than its base, then it gets +1. So originally they're printed as a 3 power, but with Lyath's ability it goes back down to 2 power. But then the might token that Lyath makes while activating his ability will push it back to 3 power, and then it itself will give it +1. So it is still a 0 for 4.
Yep, and 0 for 4 in Lyath is like about as good as you can get in terms of attacks to put things on. So yeah, these cards are really good, and they're what you want to put your attacks on. Many of them have on hits, which gives you some nice extra value when you do make the big attack. And these are just kind of the things that you want to put your attacks on. I would say these are definitely lower picks than the other cards because we talked about those other cards being so contested. These are kind of the cards that Lyath gets as free picks. The problem is you need all the other cards for these to do anything. If all you're doing is kind of blocking not that well and sending 1-card 4s, you are not really going to be winning the game.
You know what the other problem is? Is these are still just like 3 block yellow actions, so Pleiades can also just pick it up and play them too.
Yeah, she can block for 3, and if she really gets forced onto defense, having a 1 card, here's my big attack, is like actually still pretty good, especially because they have on hits. Yeah, so it's not like a high pick for Pleiades, but she will pick them. And Power Play is like another good one. The red one is a 3 for 3, and if it was played from Arsenal, it gets +5. So this is a 2 card 7 for Lyath if you played from Arsenal, one of the biggest things that you can put your attack on. Or your buffs on. But again, Pleiades is like pretty happy playing power play because it's a 2 card 8 from Arsenal, which is like, you know, you have better 2 card 8s that are not conditional, but it also blocks 3 cards just like fine.
Yeah, it's like Pleiades picks it because man, there's not much else for me in this pack. I guess I'll just pick this blue power play because it's a blue 3 block. And then Lyath goes, I wish I had a power play right now.
Yeah. Maybe the one card that Lyath truly gets that is good in Lyath and not good in the other heroes is Cheap Shot. 0 cost, reviled action, blocks for 2, and it's yellow. It says if you've been booed this turn, you may cast this as though it were an instant, and you get to deal 2 damage to target hero unless they discard a card. This can be a way to close out a game after you send a big attack. And yeah, I think having a couple of cheap shots in your deck makes your Goliath deck quite a bit better. And this is just pretty hard to play in RKO because RKO is just not that good at getting the crowd to boo you. And when you play this as your action, it's pretty bad.
And do you want more than one of these?
I don't know, 1 or 2.
1 or 2? Yeah. But you don't want like 3 or 4, right?
No, I don't think you want too many.
Yeah, that's also the problem with this, where it's like this is the only card that like Lyath is like this is like Lyath's like this is Lyath's specialization essentially in this set. But like you don't want 3 or 4 of these. So like once you pick one up, you're like kind of happy. The second one comes around, but like, do I really want this second copy? Maybe, maybe not. Like it's getting close, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's not like one of those other cards where it's like, oh yeah, this is a third copy, slam it down. It's not that. So
One thing I will say is we've been kind of down on Lyath. If you know how to make Lyath work, I want you to let us know either in the comments or on the Discord, because getting a Lyath deck that does pretty well and feels powerful is like, I don't know how much more I'm going to draft this set. Just Armory is shifting to CC lately, but like hopefully I get to draft this set a few more times, and that's one of the things on my bucket list. I would like to draft Lyath and have it feel reasonable once. So if you know how to do that, please let us know. But this is kind of our theory on what a good Lyath deck looks like. It just seems really hard to come together. So I don't know if that's just like the case. He doesn't come together that much, and that's how it is, or if we're missing something here. But yeah, if you have cracked the code on Lyath, I would love to hear about it.
do you want to move on to KO? I think we kind of talked about this gameplay while talking about the cards as well.
So KO Strongarm is the reviled brute that gets to make things 6 power at instant speed if or 6 power base at instant speed if you pay 4 resources, and makes vigors when he's booed. This hero is really strong. This to me feels like the strongest hero in the set for limited.
I think so, yeah. Just like the rares and the commons are, I think, the best in this hero.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. So let's go right into the high picks. Speaking of rares, Mocking Blow is absolutely disgusting in this hero. I guess Mocking Blow should be on Lyath high pick as well, now that I think about it. Very good card. But yeah, Mocking Blow is crazy. At red, this is already a 0 for 5 that makes a vigor. And then if you had a vigor going into this turn, you can pitch a blue and then make this into 10 power. And a 2 card 10 is just 2 card 10 make a vigor is just incredibly unfair in KO, or just in limited in general. And constructed is unfair. Yeah, every color of Mocking Blow is good, to be honest. Red one's probably the best, but like all of the Mocking Blows are really high picks, and it creates this kind of dynamic where KO like gets ahead, stays ahead, keeps hitting you with Mocking Blows. That being said, if you can stay ahead of life on KO, it's very good for you.
But KO will try its hardest to stay above health than you, and it's just like this really weird the weird dynamic of like once KO is ahead and then stays ahead is really hard to beat. I don't know if this is like a really good mechanic. Honestly, I kind of don't like this mechanic of like being ahead gives you more upside. Is kind of like it feels really like unwinnable sometimes, which is like I don't really like that feeling.
Yeah, it makes the games feel really one-sided. It's like very snowbally in both directions, especially if your deck has Mocking Blows. But it's a rare, it's highly contested, so you don't always have this. The other card that also plays into this and is a super rare is Big Bully. 2 for 4, blocks for 3. When this attacks a hero, if you have more life than them, the crowd boos you. So same text as Mocking Blow. And then if you've been booed this turn, this card's base is doubled. So this is a 2 for 8 or a 6 for 12 split card, I guess, and it makes a vigor if you have more life. So, yeah, Mocking Blow was really good. Big Bully is also really good for all of the same reasons.
Yeah, yeah. So basically the same card, just cost 2.
Yeah, essentially the same card. So yeah, these are like your most premium RKO picks. You do not need to have them to have a good RKO deck, but they do make your deck significantly better.
Yeah, yeah. What's this next card? I actually don't know what this one is. Laughing Knee Slappers?
This is the equipment. So this is the Reviled Brute equipment legs. If you can, it's a Blade Break 1, and if you control a Might and a Vigor this turn, if you control a Might and a Vigor token, this gets +2 defense when it defends. I think KO is one of the better heroes at making both the tokens. So this is just like pretty easy to turn on, and blocking for 3 is super, super unfair. And if you combo this with the helmet, the Reviled helmet that boos you, the crowd boos you when you block with it, that's like a on-demand vigor. So then all you need is the might, and that's pretty powerful. The helmet's also really powerful because it kind of gives you a free RKO activation off of just a blue, which is usually how you want to use the hero power, and just having that on demand is really good. So yeah, Laughing Knee Slappers and the Reviled helmet are both like super premium equipment. I've had drafts where I have those 2 equipment and I'm missing the other 2 slots, and it feels like I'm ahead of my opponent on equipment.
Okay, that's pretty fair. Like the cards that you want in RKO, the pumps like Cruel Ambition and Revolting Jester, this is the 0 cost and the 1 cost pumps. They make might tokens as their pump. So yeah, it's really easy to make a vigor if you can boot once. So yeah, okay, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, it's usually pretty easy to get 3 block out of this somewhere in the game. And even if you don't, Blade Break 1 is still just like really solid in this set. So I think these are just like super crazy.
Yeah. I guess the floor being a Blade Break 1 is that's already good enough to be picking it up. So if it blocks for 3, gross.
Yeah. I think I think his is like by far the easiest to turn on. All of the heroes have a version of this where you make both tokens. I just think he's, because of the cards you want, is just the easiest by far. Next, you kind of touched on it already, Reviled Pumps. I think that this is maybe the reason, or one of the reasons RKO is so strong. You get access to Go Again. That's kind of broken. Like we've been talking about how you don't really get Go Again, and like RKO just does get Go Again, and has like a pretty modal curve where you can kind of make all of these work because of Vigor tokens, because of his hero activation, because you mostly want to play 0 cost, but you can just play 2 cost brute cards. Like there's no reason you can't play a brute 2 for 6. Like it's just fine, or a 2 for 7. Like that's just okay. So you can kind of just like make all of these Reviled Pumps work. It doesn't really, they're all good, honestly. Like the 1 cost, the Cruel Ambition and Sadistic Scowl, the 0 and 3 are probably the easiest to make work and the best. But Revolting Gesture and Villainous Pose, the 1 and 2 costs, are also super good. Like they're just all good. They're all high picks.
I agree with you. Even the yellow ones for the Villainous Pose is like kind of good too, because like it helps you convert your hand.
Yeah, it's definitely not bad. So yeah, Reviled Pumps, you want basically as many of these as you can get, and then you want Booze as well. I think is a really good. This is a blue block 3, and it has Go Again, and when this enters or leaves the arena, the crowd boos you, which makes a vigor. So this makes a vigor twice, and notably, the crowd booing you also turns on Mocking Blow. So I think if you have Mocking Blow and Big Bully, booze goes up a ton in value, because even if you're on lower life, you can still play that Mocking Blow for good value. The Mocking Blow itself won't give you the vigor because you won't get the trigger, but you still get the plus power, which is the important part.
Yeah, and it's really good in the second cycle. I think we'll talk about it in the gameplay, but just having a vigor means that your zero your zero cost blue that attacks for one turns into a 6 power with another blue makes it that you don't really lose in the fatigue portion of the game either if you have a boost.
Yeah, being able to just do these blue 2 card sixes is really strong. And with that in mind, you want blue block threes that have attack power. Usually zero costs are good. If they have upside, like in Still Fear or any of the Goon series of cards, upside is always nice. And Flex Strength is also a notable one. This one costs 2, but if its base power is 6, it gets +3. So you mostly want the blue one of this, but basically this can be a blue 3 card 9, which is really strong, or you can also just put reviled pumps on this. Like you can do Revolting Gesture Flex Strength, and it's just like, oh, I did a 3 card 10 with my blue.
If you are just gonna put the pumps on it, the red one does go up in value, where it's like the 2 for 4, you put any 2 power pump on it, it goes up to 9, the 3 card 9 pretty easily. And the bigger the pump, the bigger this attack gets pretty quickly.
Yeah, that's true. If you have a lot of the pumps, the red one's good, but the blue one just basically being like
3 block.
It's just a blue 3 block that when you play it is usually a 2 for 6 is just kind of ridiculous.
Yeah. Well, it works the best with KO's hero ability.
Yeah, it works the best with KO's hero ability. Honestly, it's just good in general. I don't know.
Yeah, it just is a good card.
Yeah. So Flex Strength, really good. And then like your other attacks, you probably mostly want zero cost attacks. Again, if they have upside, it's good. Like Rowdy Locals is like a fine attack. The card that you can pay resources in to make mites is a fine attack. Yeah, just zero cost attacks are good in this hero. You play pumps, you play zero cost attacks, and then you can activate KO sometimes.
What's the last card on this list? This Arrogant Showboating? This one is...
Yeah, this is a rare... It's a bit of a weird card. So this is a reviled instant that only comes in blue. It costs 0, and it says, create a might token for each defending card controlled by an opponent on the combat chain. I don't think you want too many of these, but you kind of, I guess, like going into gameplay a little bit, you play this thing that has base, let's say 1 or 2 power, and you have a vigor, so you have 1 floating, and you're threatening the KO activation. Well, if they don't block it, they take a whole bunch of damage. And if they do block it, you can play Arrogant Showboating and then get a might for each card they defended with. So it kind of creates these like lose-lose situations for your opponent. And I've really liked having 1 copy of this. KO always gets some value out of people like overblocking because you can simply just like arsenal the blue and then put them in the same spot the next turn. But I found Arrogant Showboating to be like pretty punishing, especially if they choose to like cash in some equipment or something.
Yeah, this card does say each defending card, so that includes equipments and blocking cards, right?
Yeah, one of these has been really nice. I just had like a spot where my opponent does that, and you're just like, I make 4 mites, or like you do it turn 0. They have to block, and they have to respect the KO activation. You're just like, oh, I just get 2 mites. Okay.
Wait, is Arrogant Showboating on the combat chain? So that's like every single card they block this turn?
Yeah, if you have Go Again, technically. It's kind of hard to get Go Again, but...
Okay, yeah, I didn't know that. I thought it was for the current attack, so...
Yeah, it's not the chain link, it's the whole combat chain. I didn't completely realize this either, but yeah, I guess if you have like a flex speed is the probably easiest way to get Go Again on an attack, and then...
Okay, that's something good to know. I don't think it's going to come up in this format that often, but yeah, it's kind of gross.
Yeah, card pretty good.
You want to just quickly run over the gameplay, and then we'll do the format, our overall format impressions and thoughts after that?
Kind of able to just convert hands on offense really well between KO's hero ability and the reviled pumps. Like, this hero just feels like he can convert 4 cards. And sometimes you even just have a bunch of blues, and it's just like, my hand still converts for damage. So in many ways, he feels like the aggro deck of the format. But he also plays a lot of block 3s, so you can just kind of block and play mid-range. And you also have a pretty strong endgame loop with the, I have a vigor, I play my blue, I threaten to pump it to 6. If you give me 2 cards, I arsenal it. You're almost like a Zuri, right? Like the Zuri flip in an attack. It really reminds me of that, except that the attack that you put in arsenal is like another like stealth card in a way where you can like pump that card again. So you kind of just like keep doing the same thing over and over again in the end game. It's not to say RKO can't get fatigued, but he has a pretty good fatigue end game. I think he can easily fatigue the Guardians, maybe not so much Death Knight.
Yeah, yeah. I think the only fatigue deck in this format is Tough Nut. But yeah, even Tough Nut can get fatigued by RKO. I've seen that happen. So yeah, it's RKO's like unlike Lyath. I feel like Lyath's problem is like the bad cards in Lyath are like really bad, but in RKO, every card is just like kind of reasonable. They just like block for 3, like even the 2 blocks just like convert kind of well sometimes. And I think when every card in your hand just almost always converts, it just feels pretty reasonable and like you get to actually play a game of Flesh and Blood. That's what RKO feels like.
Yeah, yeah. And because of the buffing power of things, you can play a lot of like weird cards that aren't high picks that other people don't want. But I've gotten like very late pick yellow feisty locals, which is not a great card. But if you can make this, if your opponent's in a spot where they have to block and you have a vigor, your yellow feisty locals gets +2 if it defends and it goes up to 6 power. So it's like kind of a 2-card 8. And like, yeah, it's a block 2. Like, there's better cards out there, but yellow feisty locals is just like good in RKO and nobody else wants this card.
That's very true. That's very true. Yeah, and like even like the cards that like Bluster, Bluff, the Chest Puff look tough. These are the generic rares that block for 3 and reasonably big attacks. Like these cards are just good in this deck because it's a block 3. Brothers in Arms fine in this deck. It just like converts well.
Bluster Buff's so unfair in RKO because you can play it off of a vigor. It's just a 1 for 5, but it's like a 0 for 5 in RKO.
Oh yeah, yeah. That is true. That is true.
I think he just has so much flexibility. Like he just like makes use of literally everything. Yellow in Still Fear, the Intimidate is just like, this is just a block 3 and I can attack with it and intimidate you and buff it up. And like, it's just like, you'd rather have blue in Still Fear, but it's still good.
It plays Take That the best, which is the 0-cost red reviled action attack that attacks for 5, blocks for 2. Says when this combat chain closes, if it didn't hit, the defending hero makes a white token. This is like a 0 for 5 that, if you played an attack earlier with Go Again, you can play Take That and do that. It plays like the Brute Go Again cards okay. Like Buckwild is not on this list, but like it can also just play Buckwild.
Yeah, I think you can kind of make use of just about anything. And yeah, the big thing I would say is like the yellow 0-cost attacks are kind of okay, especially if they block for 3. But sometimes even if they don't block for 3, they're just like fine in RKO. And I think that's like what makes this hero so good. Like Bask in Your Own Glory, the Might Maker, is like just good at every color. Like the blue is a 0 for 4. You can pay into it, help convert hands. The yellow is kind of the same deal. The blue is a blue and does this. And like, yeah, it blocks 2. It's not like a great card, but it's like totally serviceable.
So true, so true. I feel like this format should going into like the overall format impressions, like I feel like RKO is like the deck that should be drafted the most and it needs to be a little bit contested, whereas the other 3 heroes you kind of want them to be more like, like maybe 2 Tough Nut, 3 RKO, 4 RKO, 1 Lyath, and like 2 Pleiades kind of thing.
Yeah, I think if RKO has like a Mocking Blow and like a couple reviled pumps, the deck's still like really good, but like it feels like you can beat it. But when a lot of the strength focuses into one RKO deck and they're just like, I have like 6 pumps and 2 Mocking Blows, it's just like how do I ever beat this deck?
When they go Mocking Blow and you're like, okay, I survived this Mocking Blow, and they play the second Mocking Blow, you're like, what is happening? What is the second Mocking Blow doing here?
Yeah. It's also tough that if you block out against him, he's so good at converting. I don't know. This hero is so good. I like RKO a lot.
But he doesn't really get to do like the flashy cool stuff like the Guardians get to do. And then you don't get to like, just play like really, really gross Flesh and Blood with Tough Nut.
It's true. He feels like the most like normal Flesh and Blood deck in the set.
Yeah, he definitely is.
Which is maybe why I like him. I just like good like Fab Fundies draft decks, and RKO is very much that. What do you think about the set after having drafted more? Do you like Super Slam? Do you think it's a good set? Do you think I know there's a lot of speculation that maybe Super Slam isn't in Worlds because it wasn't good enough or balanced enough or anything like that. Do you have any thoughts on the format?
I think this set is better than Bright Lights, and this set is better than not Super Slam, sorry, the other one that's like this.
Heavy hitters?
Heavy Hitters. Yeah, I think it's better than those two sets. And
Mhm.
I thought those two sets were fine to be played in like these like higher level events. Maybe not Heavy Hitters in my opinion, but it doesn't feel that bad. Like it feels pretty good, at least for now. And maybe like we need to work on Lyeth, but if we get like 10 more drafts in, I feel like we can figure out Lyeth as well.
Yeah, I feel like this format's like not my favorite. It's definitely a step down from like High Seas Hunted, Mistvale. I think the last few sets have been really, really good, which makes this one look worse. But yeah, I agree. I like this more than Heavy Hitters. I think I personally liked Bright Lights better, but I think this might be a better overall draft experience for most players than Bright Lights. I think Bright Lights is like you kind of need like 30 reps in the format for the format to start to feel good, which is like not for someone like me that loves drafting, that's great, but for a lot of people like maybe that's not very good.
Yeah, yeah. I definitely get that. Yeah, if you get a lot of drafts in Bright Lights, oh, it gets so much better. But this format feels pretty okay for the first couple of drafts. I feel like this draft format would have been interesting if like people like really worked on it, because like Tough Nut's really interesting in my opinion. Like it has a lot of plays and like a lot of counterplay. Like if you really worked on Tough Nut and like really thought about how to beat each deck, I feel like it's a very powerful deck. I think Pleiades has probably like a lot of like really interesting game plans and cards they want to play. So I feel like the games itself can get quite interesting. The biggest problem with this format would be that because there's no weapons, it could go into the like the deadlock scenario where you have to like pick up your deck and just start a new game again, which will induce more draws. And that's just like not a I think that might be the biggest issue of this deck. In reality, draws don't happen that often, but it existing is like kind of an issue already.
Yeah, I agree. It's not ideal. Although High Seas could theoretically draw as well. I think far less likely, but could happen. But yeah, I agree. Probably more happens more in this format than High Seas for sure.
Yeah, yeah. Whereas in high seas, like it didn't happen often, or it almost never happened.
Treasure Island sort of functioning as like a pseudo infinite weapon, so long as you could hit your opponent with like Marlin or Puffin, really helped.
Yeah, and then the gravy mirror is its own thing. Yeah, gravy mirror can go fatigue itself. It's fine.
Yeah, usually somebody winds up with an ally and then just kills them with the ally, but technically you can take all their cards and then their allies all cost to attack with, and then neither of you can win.
I guess like the most likely deck to go into like double fatigue would be Tough Nut Mirrors, but I feel like the Tough Nut Mirror technically, if you like played it perfectly, should go to fatigue most of the time, but that's almost never gonna happen. Like people would just won't play perfect, so that's just like they don't fatigue. And there are like strategies to not fatigue or to win near fatigue. Things like Helm of Hindsight goes a long way. This is a headpiece that costs 3 at instant speed to destroy it and put a target attack action card from your graveyard on top of your deck. I know that the Tough Nut Mirrors can literally just be about who plays the Helm of Hindsight better. And yeah, I don't know. I really like this format. There's like it's a pretty deep format of like trying to figure out exactly what to do, and just a format that you're allowed to IP yourself is a format that I can't hate. So
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, I don't think I like this format as much as you. I think it's fine. I would have been pretty happy with the inclusion of this format in Worlds. I think, obviously, haven't grinded a bunch of games, so maybe my thoughts would change. But I think overall, like my feeling is that this set was good enough to be drafted at a tier 4. My guess is that they just wanted to push LL, and they thought that this would be like the season where finally LL gets to shine, because you get to play it at your LGS at your PQs, and you get to play it at Worlds, and it's going to be like we're really pushing LL and it's really exciting. Now, clearly that didn't work out in practice and might sound kind of silly after our earlier discussion at the start of the episode, but I do think that's probably, if I had to guess, that's probably what LSS was thinking.
I feel like, yeah, if LL was a better or like a more loved format, then I think it would be more justifiable to remove draft and play LL instead. But with like kind of how like the community at least is talking about LL, it feels like maybe this is just Super Slam draft would have been fine, or even maybe a little better.
Yeah. I mean, I'm okay with it. I'm okay with LSS taking a chance on a format and trying to push it. I think having another constructed format of sorts seems like something that'd be good for the game. I wouldn't be surprised if they try to push Silver Age at some point and hopefully do a better job of that. So I think it's like a shame that LL didn't work out and wasn't managed super well, but I'm okay with them giving it a try. But I do hope that Yokohama would get draft back, especially considering, yeah, people don't seem to like LL very much. I actually don't hate LL that much. Maybe I don't know if I actually said that. I actually kind of don't mind LL. It's sort of fun, but yeah, people generally seem to really hate the format, so I think it's kind of a miss.
Fair enough, fair enough. I don't know. It feels really weird for a format in Flesh and Blood to have like turn 0 60 damage or like turn 1 60 damage turns. And I don't know if I can be a fan of that. Just imagine shuffling up, presenting your deck, and then being like, "Oh, I dead. Okay, we go to the next round. 45 minutes left."
That's fair. I don't. I feel like it doesn't happen that much.
Isn't it like 1 in 13 or 14 games or something?
I don't know what the exact odds are. I think it's probably less than that because you have to. I think basically the only hero that can do it is Viserai for starters, and then I think he basically has to make like 12 rune chants turn 0, which is like a very specific hand. Usually like Mordred Tide, Become the Arcanite, Dirge, Read the Runes type turn. I think that's 14. I think if you don't have the Dirge, it's 12. Sorry, if you don't have the Become, it's 12. But anyways, you need to do that, and then you need to draw the Sonata, and then you need the Sonata to like hit pretty well to actually just OTK them with 12 rune chants. I think 12 is like you're not that likely to do 40 damage off of 4 cards or 5 cards. It's like
That's fair.
possible. It's just like I don't think it actually happens that much. You might get hit for like 30 though, which could just end the game anyways. But I guess part of me feels like I don't know. There's a lot of matchups where like Verdance goes first and she's just like burn bear you. You have AB0, take 6. Discard Fruits of the Forest. I gain 2. I have 2 Earth cards in my graveyard and I'm up 8 life. Go. And it's just like it takes more turns, but that game is also kind of already largely over.
Yeah, yeah. It's like that's kind of like the sentiment I'm hearing is like the games are over on turn 0, where it's like, yeah, I guess like it doesn't physically have to be like, oh, you're at 0 life, but like if somebody does that, you're dead, right? Or like if Zen goes like the typical Zen hand from before of like turn 0, I transcend. Like that game might be a little bit more playable, but it's almost over, right? At that point.
I don't agree with that. I think there's a lot of decks that can beat that. I don't know. The format's really powerful. I honestly think you get a similar amount of agency as you get to CC. Okay, I believe it was Florin said this, and I really agree with it. That he's like, I feel like you get a similar amount of agency and there's a similar amount of skill expression, but in CC you have to take a lot more like kind of like rote actions, where it's like you just like make the good play. But like if you're somebody that's played a lot of Flesh and Blood, you kind of know what the good plays are, and you have to like make more game actions to win. But in terms of like the actual really important decisions in the game, it's like a similar amount. And I think I kind of agree with that. There are games where you just get blown up, but I think there's games you just get blown up in CC too. Like there's games where like you're playing against Syndra and you block, and then they're like, okay, Flick Knives, and you block again, and they're like, okay, Throw Daggers, and you block again, and they go like, okay, Ancestral, you Breaking Point you, and you're just like, yep, like I just lost the game, like it's over. So I think it looks different and feels different, but I don't actually think there's that big of a difference in like skill expression or things like this. And I really feel this when I play on Talishar. Like if I play the same matchup with my team and I play on Talishar, it's just like completely different because like these decks are really powerful, but they're still very intricate to play. And I think for a lot of people, like they're not maximizing all the edges, and I think those edges actually do really, really matter.
Yeah, no, I think I agree with you on that part. It's also the same reason why I don't like CC that often. Is like the cards are just so powerful sometimes, where you just like make all the right plays and your opponent still blows you up. You know, you play against KO, you sit there and they just start with a Blood Rush below on turn 2, and you're like, okay, like hopefully they don't discard Beast Within. They discard Beast Within. Okay, hopefully they don't take 40 damage.
Yeah, yeah. I think the high rolls in CC are similar to the high rolls in LL. The difference is like it takes like 4 or 5 more turns to play out, and then you lose, and they're at like 10 life, so it feels kind of close. But like in LL, they high roll you, and you're just like, oh, I died like 3 turns sooner, and they're at like 30 life. But I don't think the game is like actually closer. I don't know if that makes sense.
Actually, yeah, that does kind of the way I think when you frame it that way, it does make a lot more sense. Yeah.
I think Flesh and Blood has this way of like feeling really close almost all the time, but there's a lot of games where just like the aggro deck just like sits there and they're just like, I'm gonna give you all your on hits, I'm gonna tank like 20 damage, and you're at 5, and I have a 5 card hand, and like, what are you gonna do about it? And it's like that game is not actually a close game, even if they end in like single digits life totals. That game is like super one sided, right? So I don't know. I think Flesh and Blood is very good at giving the illusion of close games. There are a lot of close games too, to be clear. But I think that like a lot of games feel closer than they actually are, and I think that LL just sort of like makes those not appear as close, but are kind of equally not close.
Okay, that's a really good point. That's a really good point. I think my downside, I think the biggest downside for me for LL versus CC will be like the type of decks that I like playing just
Yeah.
won't be viable in LL. Like I can't play Huntsman and try and fatigue people. Like that's just never gonna work.
Yeah, it feels like you're either like some kind of defensive leaning combo deck, some kind of super explosive aggro deck, or some kind of disruptive deck that has a pretty fast clock. And those are like basically the types of decks that you get to play.
hmm And I can't just block for 3 and sit there. Oh, boring.
Yeah, you can do some blocking in the format. I think blocking is important, but the mid range blocky fatigue style decks don't.
Are you saying block for 13 every turn is not good enough in LL? How dare you, Yuki? Yeah. It's okay. It's okay. That's not even good enough in CC right now. So,
Lyeth would be best deck if it was.
yeah. Well, they got rid of Count Your Blessings, so I don't know. Lyeth maybe had a chance if it had all the Count Your Blessings in every
Oh, in LL, are you talking about? Or are you
Yeah,
talking
in
about
LL.
SSC? I guess I will leak this. Before they banned Count Your Blessings, we were testing Count Your Blessing Lyeth, and the deck was extremely messed up. Like, I saw it beat Starvo with like 50 life left over.
Yeah. Like that was like if I were queued for Worlds and working on a deck, that would be the deck I would be working on. It would be like infinite life gain Lyath, and
Yeah, I don't think you can get there without CYB, but with CYB, that deck was gross.
yeah, and I'm just like because like CYB knew was playable in LL, right? And like
Hmm. You just have even more life gain.
yeah, it's just like it's like New wasn't good at putting pressure on your opponent or like gaining
She
life.
does disrupt your opponent though.
Sure, yeah, just enough. It's like not that hard to, disrupt your opponent, but like just having 5 cards with CYB is just crazy, right? Like, oh my god, that's crazy. Like if you don't have to attack them and if your hero text is blank, like 5 card hands is impossible to like get through.
Yeah, I definitely tuned into. I think I like when we were testing and tuned into like a Chain v Lyath game where it's like Shackle 5 and Lyath at like 70 life. It's just like like Chain's like trying to attack, and I'm like, Lyath's health total is moving the opposite direction. It's going up each turn. It was a little bit something. You couldn't really beat Viserai if they played Reaping Blade and just stacked you and killed you in one turn, but other than that, that deck was pretty messed up.
Yeah. At least there were some counters to it. Yeah,
But yeah, no
exactly the
CYB.
Rune Blades with Reaping Blade.
Yeah. No CYB. So I'll I'll say that one because I think it's pretty funny to talk about. But yeah.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, you got to be that degenerate in life gain, or you don't get to play. You don't get to play the sit there and block decks. At least
Yeah.
now that CYB's gone.
Yeah, I'll say that Florian has kind of been a deck on and off in that format where you sit there and block and then you slowly make rune chance and then you Skalita germinate and then they die.
Okay, yeah, reasonable? Question mark.
Yeah. I think
reasonable?
that deck also liked CYB, so it lost CYB, but I think has more ability to survive potentially just because you have a clock with Skalita Germinate, so you don't literally block until they deck out. You block until you get 20 rune chance or whatever, and then they die.
Yeah.
You just can't beat like Illusionist.
I am just curious to see what LL is gonna be like at Worlds, because I know a lot of these like testing teams aren't leaking any of like their super spicy decks that they're probably gonna bring to this tournament. And we're gonna, I think this is my guess. I know you probably have some decks with your team that you can't share, but my guess is that they're gonna bring out some, just some disgusting turn 2 kill decks that are like really hard to interact with. And we'll see that LL was very, very broken with things like the tome type effects, right? They're the cards that you just get to draw 2, 4, 6 cards in a turn.
Yeah. I think that there's probably at least one or two spicy decks out there in the format, is what I'll say.
Yeah. Look, man, I'm just ready for the one person on Kano to be like, "Oh yeah, best thing to do: pitch blue tome, pitch blue tome, pitch blue tome, kill you."
Kano is pretty good in that format. The only problem Kano has is like most of the best decks have AB3 Spellvoid too, but
Yeah, great. uh, okay, I think we'll wrap up the episode here, though.
yeah, it seems like a good place to stop. All right. Thank you all for listening. That's going to be it for this episode. Hopefully, you enjoyed it, and hopefully, we'll help you if you get to draft some Super Slam at your local armories. If you want to get in touch with us, you can find us on social media. I'm at Yuki Lee Bender on Twitter and Blue Sky. Jay is at Ueda J over on Twitter. If you want to email us, we're onthebobble@gmail.com, and we have a Patreon, patreon.com/onthebobble, and there's a Discord there as well. So if you have questions, things you want to get answered on the show, stuff like that, then submit your questions there. No, there are a few listener questions that I do want to get to, and I promise we haven't forgotten. We've had other topics, so we're going to cover those. And I think that in the coming weeks, we will have time to answer some of those listener questions as well. Yeah, that's going to be a wrap. Thank you all for listening, and good luck at the rest of your PQs or Battle Hardens or Worlds, whatever it is that you're prepping for.